Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about should you or should you not buy Star Citizen or even play it in 2023. I'm not going to decide for you. I'm simply going to explain what to expect from the game and what can you actually do in Star Citizen right now. And I need to touch upon a few things and I need to tell you why this game has entered the second decade of its development. And if by the end of the video you decide to buy Star Citizen, you can use my referral code. It's here on the screen. It's also going to be down there in the description of the video. This is not a sponsored video. Whoever makes an account, like everybody that makes an account, gets a referral code and you can use theirs, but you can use mine if you want to support me. You will get some extra money in the game, and depending on when you buy it, you might even get an extra vehicle for free. So let me roll the intro and let's talk about Star Citizen.
Hello, my name is Grumpy.
Let's start off by talking about the bad things that surround Star Citizen. People have been calling this game a scam for ages, and you can't really blame them since this game is in its 11th year of development and it's still in the early alpha stages. Some people would even call it a pyramid or a Ponzi scheme, which is also understandable since I just asked you to use my referral codes, and if you look at it that way, it's really bad. But after researching this game for 11 years and playing it for 3 years now, instead of telling you that it isn't a scam, I will ask you these questions. How can it be a scam if you can play it right now? Which means that you can have months and months of fun with it by spending only $45 on it. And also, how can it be a scam if it's getting constantly updated? How can it be a scam if you take into account that the development team of 900 people has to get paid every month, and that even though they're earning more and more each year, they're employing even more developers to work on the game? So if you think about it, calling it a scam would be stupid, right? But I understand, like it's been 10 years in development. I mean, I even made the merch that like Senior Citizen, come on. But what Star Citizen is actually just a poorly managed project, and here's why. The development of this game started in 2011, which was basically a pre-production phase so they can have something to show in the Kickstarter. And in 2012, Kickstarter has happened, and during the time, Star Citizen was supposed to be a combination of a single-player game and an MMO. But in 2016, Cloud Imperium Games, or CHE for short, split the game into two packages, a single-player campaign called Squadron 42 and Star Citizen that is supposed to be an MMO. And even though they're both basically the same game, ran on the same engine with the same mechanics, they were and still are sold separately. But here's the thing, you can play the alpha of Star Citizen right now, but Squadron 42 is locked behind closed doors, being in development for ages now. And if you want to know more about the problem with Squadron 42, you can see it here, it's going to be linked here. And yeah, but here we enter the dark ages of Star Citizen. Since 2016, the majority of development time and resources went into Squadron 42, and the development of Star Citizen seemed like it slowed down because of that. But that doesn't mean that Star Citizen got put on hold. On the contrary, we are getting updates for Star Citizen on a quarterly basis, some of which introduce improvements to the existing mechanics and some of which add major changes and new mechanics to the game. But the progress is slow and sometimes pretty painful, especially if you take into account that the game is still in the alpha stage and it's buggy as hell. On top of that, CAG as a company has some of the worst predatory marketing tactics that I have seen ever, hyping up the ships that are about to come out just to nerf them after they get released, or just delaying their release for years and years. But even though it's not a good look, it is somewhat understandable, since ship sales are CAG's main source of income. But it is also very understandable that some people feel like they got scammed. Especially if you take into account that some of the players spent real money to buy ships for the game 5 or 10 years ago, and those ships are still nowhere close to being released. But I cannot stress this enough, you don't need to have fear of missing out, and you don't need to buy anything else than the game package with the beginner ship, because you do not need any of it, because you can buy Every ship, everything that you can see in the store, on their online store, you can buy it in the game with the in-game currency. And if you're unsure if you have what it takes or the patience to be a Star Citizen, then Star Citizen is probably not a game for you, and you should probably forget about it. But before you do, let me tell you one more thing. And by now, you might be asking yourself, why is everything so slow when it comes to Star Citizen? And the reason behind it would be that CAG is attempting to do something that has never been done before. They're trying to make a seamless and expansive universe that you can experience in first person. A universe where you can be whatever you want to be, fly any ship that you want to, be a commander of a fleet, a miner, a salvager, a smuggler, a pirate, a simple fighter pilot, or not fly any ships at all, and just be an FPS player. And that all takes a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort, and that's exactly why it has never been done before. So you could say that this is by far the most ambitious project in gaming ever, and you would be right, especially if you take into account that they're developing a single-player game or Squadron 42 on top of them working on Star Citizen. This is no Battlefield or Call of Duty. Most gaming studios would never attempt to make a game this complex, because not only that a game like this is hard to make, but it's also impossible to know if it's going to earn enough to cover all the expenses. But that is why I can tell you with all honesty that Star Citizen is nothing more and nothing less than an uncut and unpolished diamond in the sand being the majority of other games. But as I've said, that diamond still needs to be cut and polished, so you shouldn't expect a perfect gaming experience from this game, not right now at least. But let me tell you what you can do right now in the game. There is a big emphasis on combat in Star Citizen. Almost every ship in the game has guns on it. Some of them have guns to defend themselves, while the others have guns to pounce on the prey. On top of that, Star Citizen is an FPS game, so whether you're into PvE or PvP, there is a lot of stuff for you to kill. You can be a bounty hunter or a pirate. Also, there is a plethora of different ship and FPS weapons to choose from, and all of them have different characteristics. I'm not going to go that deep into that topic in this video, but some ship weapons in Star Citizen are used to destroy the enemy ships, while others are used to deactivate them so the attackers can board the enemy ship. Of course, there is a ton of land vehicles that are mostly used in PvP events, where all the players on the server try to take control of a single facility. But if you don't want to bother fighting on the ground, you can just bomb them and be done with it. Each planet, every ship interior, and every facility is made with combat in mind. So whether you want to just chill and kill NPCs around the verse and earn money, or if you want to be a sweaty PvPer that is taking money and cargo from the rich and giving it to himself or the poor, there is a lot for you to do. But as always with this game, there is always more to come, even with combat, more missions, more events, and more ship and FPS weapons. As of 3.18 patch, the newest addition to the game is the Racing game loop. In this one, you will put your best ships and skills to the test on the pre-made racetracks around the planets and the moons in the verse. Currently, you can only race against the clock by going through the checkpoints, and the pilots with the best time on the clock will get the prize. But in the future, it is planned for us to be able to race against each other in player-driven events. Although that does not stop you from making an event yourself, calling your friends or other racing hotheads, and putting your money where your mouth is. You can do that right now. All of the racetracks were made by the developers listening to the community and placing assets and checkpoints in the areas where we used to race before racing became a supported game loop. And in the future, you will be able to customize and change the thrusters on your ships and tweak the internal components, and you will be able to push your ship to its limits even more than you can right now. But currently, the most profitable profession in the game is of course going to be mining. As of right now, Star Citizen has two mining ships, one of which is a single-seater and the other one is a multi-crew ship. And it also has two mining land vehicles, a single-seater and a two-seater, but that will be expanded upon in the future, and we will get more ships and land vehicles since this is going to be one of the main professions in the game. You can also mine with a hand tool, but asteroid mining is where the big money is, and for those you will need a big-ass ship. There is already a bunch of tools, consumables, and different mining lasers that you will have to use to mine the biggest and the most mineral-rich rocks. The mining game loop works like this. You find a good mining spot on a planet, a moon, or in the asteroid fields, and once you fill up on the raw materials, you go back to the refinery to process them. After the materials are refined, you will need to haul them to the planets that are offering the best prices, where you will sell your loads. But beware, you can and will get pirated, so you better hire some security. And there are already a ton of organizations that are offering those services, because you do not want to get pirated and lose everything that you mined. And of course, some players will tell you that you do not need any protection, but before you listen to them, just ask them how many keyboards did they break because of them getting pirated. Now, the next major game loop and profession is of course going to be cargo hauling. Cargo hauling is currently split into two major components, one of which would be you being Space Amazon or FedEx, where you pick up some boxes from one spot and deliver them to another one. It is an entry-level game loop, but as you progress, you will encounter more and more angry NPCs surrounding those boxes that you need to deliver. You can also go for the criminal delivery missions, which are basically the same, but instead of getting in trouble with the criminals, it can get you in trouble with the law. The other component to cargo hauling would be trading, which works like this. You get your biggest ship with the biggest cargo hold and you invest your own money to haul cargo from a facility that is producing it, and then you sell it on a planet or a moon that has a high demand. Once you chain a couple of these runs, you can earn some good money, but also you investing your own money means that if you get pirated or if you crash the ship, you will lose everything you invested. So try not to invest all of your savings on trading. In the future, you will be able to buy insurance for the cargo for a small fee, and you will be able to take cargo hauling missions instead of investing your own money. The trading economy is dynamic and is tied to all the servers around the globe, but is currently being worked on to bring it up to a much higher standard. As with the mining game loops, try not going out alone without any protection. You're gambling with your own in-game money, and if you get pirated, you will lose everything that you invested, so always hire protection whatever you do. That is, of course, unless you're the protection or the threat. And the last major game loop that was added to the game with the 3.18 patch is going to be the Salvage game loop. Now, Salvage is currently basically in its infancy state, or tier 0 state as CAG likes to call it. Salvage is supposed to incorporate hull scraping, hull munching, and component salvage, but currently we only have the hull scraping mechanics in the game. Hull munching is currently being worked on, and hopefully we will see it in the game by the end of the year. It is not that good of a money earner by any means, since it only brings us one of the mechanics that are supposed to be used, but it is really fun to scrape the hulls off of ships that got killed by you or that you found during your endeavors. With the 3.18 patch, every NPC and player ship that got destroyed will stay there basically forever as a wreck until someone finds it and scrapes it. There are currently two ships that are used for salvage, one of which is made for a single person and the other one is made for a large crew, since it's a behemoth of a ship. Multi-crewing goes much faster and you can earn a lot more in the long run, so I suggest you crew one of the capital-sized salvage ships to see if you like the experience. But like with everything else, if you're holding cargo, that cargo can be stolen. So hire protection or you will get pirated at some point. Before I conclude this whole video, I want to touch upon a few things that we already have in the game and a ton of things that are about to come. Well, at some point. For example, we already have ship-to-ship refueling in the game, but since we're still confined to a single system, there is no reason to hire other players to refuel you on the go. So don't think that you'll make a career out of it. Once we get server meshing and once more systems get introduced to the game, it will be much more useful. We also have medical gameplay, but this is not the final version of it. In the future, we will have to replace our lost limbs with cybernetic ones, and I guess that all of us will look like androids at some point. Some orgs in the game already are made simply to offer medical services to other players, and you can even call them to hop onto your server through their Discord just to revive you. Now, there's always more to come with Star Citizen, so let's talk about the upcoming game loops. We should be getting a lot of them in the future, from data running to smuggling, exploration, NPC passenger transport, base building, all the way to science and crafting. But that is all yet to come, and it is uncertain when we will see those features in the game. Soon we should be getting dedicated refinery and repair ships and a ton of other features, but none of that will happen this year. This year we might get the first iteration of the engineering gameplay, where you will need to maintain your ship and fiddle with the ship's components to get it to work properly. Or if some of them happen to break, you will need to fix them. So if you're interested in playing this game, believe me, it has not even started to look like what it's supposed to look like. So you will be constantly getting fed with new features and mechanics. That is, until you get fed up, like a lot of us, me included. But you can still play other games while you're playing Star Citizen, right? But let me tell you something, when this game works, it is the most amazing game ever, and it will completely break every other game for you. Like, you will not want to play any other games, you will just wish that Star Citizen had that, because this is supposed to be the game of all games. And the last thing that I have to tell you is that Star Citizen is not a pay-to-win game. You can get every ship in the game with a reasonable amount of grind, and the best fighters in the game are also the cheapest ships that you can get after a couple of days of playing. So don't think that some players will have an advantage with their big-ass ships that they paid for with real money. No, the game is purely skill-based, and it is not like any other MMO. There are no skill points, and you will be able to do whatever you want to, whenever you want to. But also, it's still not an MMO because we're still waiting on server meshing for 6 years now, hence the Senior Citizen hoodie. But yeah, that is it for today, guys. If you want to buy the game, if you're new to the game, or if you want to buy it, you can use my referral code from the start. It's the same now on the screen. You can find it down in the description of the video. Make sure you leave a like and a subscribe, because there's gonna be a lot of streams, and there's gonna be a lot of like walkthroughs and how to do and like tutorials and all of that. But I want to thank my patrons for supporting me, and my YouTube channel members for supporting me. You guys are amazing. If you want to support me, there's a join button there. There's a super chat there if this is premiering or during live streams, and also in the description you can find the Patreon link. You can support me there. $1 per person, 100 people, that's $100, and that's how it works. YouTube has made it so hard to do YouTube anymore, like with the current changes that they had. So if you want to support me, those are the best ways. Also, you can get my merch. The merch is shown here, also down in the description of the video. There's a lot of funny stuff, and just check out the merch store. If you don't want to buy something, like you can just be a window shopper, and that's it. But at least you're gonna have a smile on your face while you're looking at the merch. And also, if you want to support me, but the videos are not enough, like this is the way where you can get something in return for supporting me. So merch store all the way. Anyway, thank you for watching again, and don't forget to bring a towel when you're traveling into space, and mwah, bye.